I think it's responsible to have a Dak Prescott discussion if I'm the Cowboys front office. We sit down and we say, how much further can we go? How do we get him to another level? Is he capable of getting to another level? Do we need to change an offensive coordinator? Do we need to bring back that John Kitna magic that Bobby always refers to? And is this the only reason to trade out Mike McCarthy for maybe Sean Payton to improve the quarterback that we are basically stuck with? We're married to. That's a nicer way to put it. And Bassick brought this up, and he really made me think. It's why Bassick, to me, is really, really interesting when he's awake during the show. Of the final 4 teams left, look at what they all did. And is this a pattern we need to pay attention to? The Kansas City Chiefs, and you can view this, I know that Dak is probably better than Alex Smith, but the Kansas City Chiefs realized they hit a ceiling. We're not getting to the conference title game. We're not getting to the Super Bowl with Alex Smith. We have to gamble. We have to roll the dice. They drafted Mahomes. That was a hit. The Philadelphia Eagles said Carson Wentz, all the tools, had an MVP-type season. We're done with him. This isn't working. We're going to roll the dice on an option quarterback that transferred schools in college, Jalen Hurts. That worked. The San Francisco 49ers said, Jimmy G is nice. We can go to the playoffs. We can win 20-17 games and beat Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau, but we need more. Let's draft Trey Lance. That was their approach. And even Cincinnati, we don't have any example of Burrow, but Andy Dalton and the Bengals, everyone forgets, they were there in the playoffs under Marvin Lewis. They just couldn't win. And they were like, okay, we need to move off of this. This isn't enough. These are all patterns that I think it's fair for us to ask and assess, are we in this boat?
Well, we talked about this a week ago, 2 weeks ago, with the way the AFC is versus everybody else. The AFC teams, Lawrence, Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. All those guys were in the those were the postseason quarterbacks in the AFC this year. I know Tua and Lamar were hurt, but every single quarterback that was a postseason quarterback in the AFC this year was a first-round draft pick. And everybody except Lamar Jackson was a top 10 pick.
Wow.
Like, it's not really, like, they've kind of showed this is kind of how you got to do it. And the NFC, Jalen Hurts, not a first-rounder. Dak wasn't a first-rounder. Tom, wasn't a first-rounder, but, you get it with him.
Purdy
was a 7th-rounder. Go down the list. It doesn't really, Kirk Cousins was a 4th-rounder. Daniel Jones was the 1st-rounder.
Right.
So the NFC has done it a completely different way. There's no, you can build your team how you want. You can get there the same way. The Patriots got there with a 6th-round pick, but is that as sustainable to try to find out, look what I found at quarterback, than going out and just saying, all right, we're going to stink. We're going to take a step back. We're going to get a top 10 pick, and we're going to find our guy. And we're gonna hope our scouting department knows what they're talking about.
Okay. So, Bobby, are you at least in on the discussion, this evaluation, if you're in the Cowboys front office, that we've had so far in the first 5 minutes?
Yeah, I understand if people want to have it. I wouldn't have it, but I get it. And I'll sit here.
How is this different from all the other team situations I just went through?
Because I think you've seen more than enough over 7 years to know you can build around him, and you can win with him. It's not the same question. Like Jimmy, there are questions about, can you execute like a simple game plan? There are issues there that don't exist. I don't think that generally you're going to invite a question of, should we move away from a guy that we know reliably wins us 2/3 of the games minimum?
Okay. I think the choppy approach, regular season, 11-12 wins, sign up for it, take it, and then you roll your dice in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily like rolling the dice. I think it's, you've got, we talked about it before we entered the playoffs. Like, there's an argument to be made Dak was like the top quarterback in the NFC.
Yes.
And so, and now you're talking about purging Aaron Rodgers from the conference, not even willing to trade him within it. It's just, it's tough to see that Dak won't be one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC for the very near future.
Very fair. Now let's get down to the money. Let's talk about whether this is even possible.
Make that money.
Trading Dak Prescott would look like what? In terms of the feasibility, doability.
Well, I mean,
probability.
I don't look. The LA Rams traded Jared Goff, and he did not have what was thought to be a exceptional contract.
Right. They just paid him again?
They had just paid him.
Yeah.
And they moved on from him. And he goes to Detroit. They bring in Matt Stafford, but they also said 2 first-round picks. If you're willing to send picks with somebody, you could trade anybody. If you're willing to eat the money, you could trade anybody. You know, you really can. You may have to just throw extra things in there.
Okay.
Do it. But Bobby, ran the numbers. It looks like the Cowboys would owe $9 million to the cap if they traded Dak pre-June.
They would, yeah. So their dead money on his hit would be $58 million. So it would basically put them $9 million more in the red than they are with just having him.
And the reason because his cap hits 49. If they move on, his dead money is 58. So the difference is the 9.
So is this just as not doable as they say Russ is, as they say Rodgers? Like the possibility of it compared to those guys with monster deals.
No, okay, so Russ is completely impossible. If you trade Russ, it puts you $40 million in the red. Like there are 2 guys right now you just absolutely cannot trade in the NFL. That's Russ and that's Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's the same. You trade Kyler Murray
with this guarantee?
Well, yeah, Deshaun too probably. Kyler Murray you can't trade because if you trade Kyler Murray, you go $43 million in the red if you're the Cardinals.
Wow.
And then now I'm just curious about Watson. If you trade Watson, interesting. Okay, so if you trade Watson, you actually get $19 million in savings. Probably because he's got triggers that guarantee it the rest of the way. But Aaron is also very difficult to trade because when you look at his, it looks similar to Dak's. It's like, oh, okay, you go $8.6 million in the red if you trade Aaron Rodgers. But the problem is that there's a bonus, an option that needs to be picked up. That's worth $58 million. All
right, so put it in one sentence for me. Dak trading him, the possibility of it cap-wise, financially. It's doable?
If you want to take a financial bath, you can do it. But you'd have to willingly be setting your cap back more than it is. And I think they have right now $8 million in cap space. So you'd be talking about wiping all of it away and then taking on somebody's contract in return would then put you, assuming you're trading for a $30 million quarterback or something, you're then adding $30 million to the cap. You'd have to immediately start restructuring deals and cutting guys.
Okay. So that doesn't sound
it'd be
probable.
Difficult. They could, but
difficult.
And I mean, sure, if somebody wanted to wait until June to trade with you, you could post June 1 trade him, and you're talking about then, now you free up $31 million. But what'll be more likely is the Cowboys can restructure Dak's contract right now and free up as much as $22 million in cap space. All right, so they will restructure him.
So now let's just get to some names for the heck of it. If you were thinking about trying to take that next step, if you've decided Dak Prescott is not that guy. The names I wrote down in no particular order. Aaron Rodgers, who Green Bay said yesterday they would not trade him within the NFC. Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson drama in Baltimore, Tom Brady available. Everyone says he's not going back to Tampa.
Tom Brady.
And then we wrote down Derek Carr, Choppy's guy, the San Francisco options with Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and then the draft option. Any of those jump out to you, Ralph?
Not really.
Lamar doesn't?
No.
I mean, I don't know that. I mean, Lamar versus Dak. I mean, I think there's similarities there. I don't.
Versus.
Yeah. I would rather go the draft route if I was going to go with that. I mean,
where you're picking though? 26?
Well, no, you would have to move up.
You won't even be able to get Will Levis or Anthony Richardson there.
Hooker, baby. I would. You'd have to move up. You'd have to trade next year's one, or something like that, or player 2 and move up.
And you would only do it for a
blue
first
chipper.
round,
yeah,
a blue chipper.
Yeah, I would say like Anthony Richardson wouldn't even be my threshold. It'd have to be higher than that. But the likelihood of you getting that is very, very slim. Like, So Dak's cap charge this year is $49 million. And, like Carr's, for example, is $35. Would you want the $14 million in savings and take Derek Carr as your quarterback?
Right.
Or would you want almost $20 million in savings and take Jared Goff as your quarterback?
Which it wouldn't be that way. Because when you trade him, it accelerates all the cap charges.
Okay.
So then you're $9 million in the red, and you're then taking on $30 million from Derek Carr. So you're talking about putting yourself in the category of Denver
40,
trading for Russell Wilson and taking a $40 million back.
I'm crossing off Carr. I'm crossing off Brady. I'm crossing off Jimmy. I'm crossing off. I'm crossing off
Lamar and Rodgers.
I'm crossing off Rodgers. They may be crossing it off for me. Although next year, if you just told me I had 1 year to live, and next year I had Dak or Rodgers quarterback in the Cowboys to try to win the championship, I would put my chips. I would gamble the scary gamble on Rodgers, but he could be done. I don't know. But
I would only take him if he had just tripped
on the
ayahuasca or whatever.
On the ayahuasca. And then I'm probably saying no to Lamar. So I'm probably saying no to all the other alternatives out there.
Your only option, if you wanted to do this, would be to trade him after June 1st to somebody who was fine waiting to getting him until June 1st. Do it for capital only, and you go sign somebody like Brady. That would be your option.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, well, we can make out a deal with Tom, figure things out, make it financially work, and then we can hang on long enough to wait until June to trade Dak, with the understanding they're going to.
And this is why I feel trapped, because I deep down believe he's not going to take me there. Too many things have to happen for this football team in order for them to win it all with him at quarterback. But these other alternatives and options are not good enough for me to try to get rid of him.
My final thing would be is if you're not gonna if you're not sold on Dak,
which you and I right now are not sold on him to win you a Super Bowl.
Look, the history of the NFL. There are four examples of quarterbacks in the history of the league who have started for their same team for 7 years or more, never made a Super Bowl in those first 7, that eventually went to a Super Bowl with that team.
Okay.
Ken Anderson, Phil Simms, I'm pretty sure was dragged there by Lawrence Taylor, Peyton Manning, and Matt Ryan. That's it. You either get there in your first 7 years or you never get there with that team. Now, Stafford got there with another team.
But you guys also agree on the study that it takes at least 6 or 7 years for it all to click.
It does take 6 or 7 years for it all to click.
At quarterback.
But the greats find a way to get there before, typically.
Okay.
More often than not. And that's a problem. So, if you had to ask me what I would do, I'd be like, all right, I'm either going to give Dak one more year or, the option is I would not trade him for a player. I am not interested in trading him for a player. I am interested only in trading him for picks and getting a top 10 quarterback in the draft.
Okay.
At some point.
What if you don't trade anything at all and you keep Dak, and instead, literally while keeping Dak, you draft Hendon Hooker in the second round?
I mean, if you want to go down that road, that's fine.
Would you do that? You'd be okay with that? They almost drafted Malik Willis. They very easily could have drafted Malik Willis in the third round if he would have been there. If he would have fallen 2 more picks past the Titans, they were absolutely considering taking Malik Willis.
Man, we've seen this. This team is not the only team that's gone longer without drafting a quarterback in the first round is the Saints. I don't want to go down the road of, maybe if we hit on this guy, maybe if we hit on this cute little story. I don't want a cute little story anymore.
I mean, how many second round quarterbacks have they even taken? Quincy? That's it?
Yeah, that's it. And I love Hendon Hooker. I love him, but
he is very similar to Quincy.
You want a first round stud. You want top shelf.
I want the opportunity to have Joe Burrow here.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes or whatever, Josh Allen, whatever.
Yeah.
I just want that. I don't want to have to hope for Tom Brady.
Yeah, you want top shelf.
I do, man.
You're willing to pay for top shelf, but you want top shelf.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fair. And then Roberto, we don't even have to go to you because we know you're erasing all. All right, give me the best of. If you had to choose another option, what would it be? We know it's keeping Dak.
The feasibility moving around, like I said, it would be you probably need to go sign Brady or somebody and trade Dak in June.
Yeah.
That's the only feasible way to kind of make something work.
And I'm keeping Dak because these other options aren't screaming out that they're better. So I think you have to go through the exercise. I think that they hopefully go through the exercise, or maybe they're just like, no, we absolutely believe in him and we have no doubt.
We're going through the exercise of.
You think Jerry? I think. You think Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones believe that Dak Prescott is their Super Bowl winning quarterback? I don't believe that.
I think they think they can win with him. Do they think there would be a better option out there? Maybe, but at the very least, they are not today, January 25th, 2023. They're not moving on from Dak. Yeah, they're not considering moving on from Dak.
And that's fine. Look,
why do you say that so forcefully?
Because do things change? Because just the cap ramifications, the fact of how invested, how deep they are into this versus how small the sample size is of what are these questions that are coming up. It's something that do they get into next year and they continue to see things? Then maybe at the end of next year they are talking about it. But as of today, given their history and what they've invested, that's not up for discussion. Jerry said it 10 times post-game after San Francisco. I want to be back here with the same team and Dak at quarterback. I want to be back in this position with Dak at quarterback. Kept saying that over and over and over.
Or what else is he going to say?
The issue is... And
he volunteered it, though. He didn't need to.
This is a Cowboys problem. Like, no other GM in the league would refuse to take a step back because of their age. And it's hurting the team. Like, what would Howie Roseman do?
Let's ask that. What would Kyle Shanahan do? What would Howie Roseman do?
Sean McVay. Like, Jared Goff took him to a Super Bowl in the playoffs every year. Like, they won, I think they averaged like 11 wins a year in Goff's time there. 10 and a half wins or something like that.
And he traded for a worse quarterback.
Well, I agree, but it worked. And I bet you they wish they had Goff now because who knows if Stafford's ever going to play again.
I bet they wish they had Goff and the picks.
What do you think Andy Reid would be doing here with this?
I think Andy Reid would have been putting Dak in a better position to succeed against San Francisco than Kellen Moore did.
I mean,
and Kyle Shanahan, you're going to say
sure.
Same answer. I'm just talking about the thought of. I mean, he took Alex Smith as far as Alex Smith could go. Would these other guys with personnel control say, this is as far as we can get? We need to swap it out. We need to change it up.